Well, Mark Rudd Larsen here for the Dreamcatcher podcast. Thanks for joining me. Actually, it's just me on this episode of the Dreamcatcher podcast. I've had so many people ask, "Who is Mark Rudd Larsen? I mean, what's his background? How did he get started doing podcasting? Why does he do podcasting? Why does he like to drink kombucha and makes his own?" And just a lot of things like that. So I thought I would just do one out on my walkout and yeah, just kind of go from there. Enjoy the rays and come drink kombucha and just have a heart to heart. So let's get started. I'm Mark Rudd Larsen, living in South Central Nebraska, close to Minden. I'm out in the middle of the country, so got all my relative, not relatives, friends out there between the 52 turkeys and the deer and the rabbits and bobcat and you name it. We have a lot of wildlife over here. It's kind of awesome. In fact, the bird bath is used more for the raccoons and the deer and everybody else rather than actually for the birds. So, but yeah, lived here for 21 years where this house is at. Actually, it was a house that my parents moved to when I was two, not number two, when I was two, and they had originally lived in Denver. I was born in Denver, Colorado, and they moved out here when my dad was going to start farming with his dad. But the house, actually, that this house is right next to here. It was about 6 miles to the southwest of here. Cheryl and I bought the house in, let's see, like early 90s. I think it was 90. Can't remember for sure the exact year, because we were getting into farming with the quarter and everything else like that. And then we got it. My dad and we all got out of farming and everything, and sold the quarter, and the house needed to come off. And actually, this center pivot corner, which I don't know if you're not, um, there's with the center pivot system, irrigation system, there's always the corners, unless you have a corner system that don't get irrigated. And this one happens to be with a lot of woods and grass. So we always had thought years earlier that this would be a great place for a house. So I didn't realize it was going to be this house. So 21 years ago, Cheryl and I moved this house, the 6 miles. Actually, we hired it done, but had it moved over here, new foundation, new everything, because they considered it, since it was a new location, that this house, which was built in the 40s, had to come up to that day's code. So that was it was six months, and it seemed like 6 years that it was worth it. So we've been living here. Did farming, did handyman for 21 years around the area, the South Central Nebraska area. At the top, I had 150 clients with my handyman business. Awesome people. I blame them, or they are the ones that kind of got me to talking, because it ended up that I usually, after I got done with the job, I would have some coffee or tea or something, and something goodies that they had made. So I got to learn how to talk a lot there. But going back, yeah, when I was two, my parents and my later sister, who came along a couple years later after that, she's 4 years younger than I am. We lived in that house over there. My mom and dad farmed. We had cattle. Basically had a great, childhood. Um, I was not really that popular in school. I like I was telling my wife today, Cheryl, that I liked school until first grade, and but I was a big kid, and not a big kid then, but a kid, and big kid is still in me. And but I mean, I was not part of the in group. Kindergarten was good, but when we started doing that, then I started getting all the typical stuff the kids do to each other, and I was definitely not an in crowd, and so I was very, very quiet. I didn't say anything because it seemed like if I didn't say anything, I didn't have problems at school. So I basically, I became actually later on in school, became a bookworm. I got great grades, and that was towards the middle of my schooling. But initially, wasn't so good at that. But it just made it so I hated physical education because I was very timid. Didn't want to change into my gym clothes. I didn't know how, and it was not because of my dad or anybody not teaching me sports. I just was not interested. And to this day, I probably like sports now better than I did then. I think maybe I did, but I was afraid to try. And and that's what got me who I am today. You know, but I didn't do. We always had the track meet at the end of the school year, and I was always came in last. I was quite overweight. In fact, my parents suggested that I go on Weight Watchers when I was in fifth grade, and I was like 50 or 60 pounds overweight. So and Weight Watchers worked great. And then I had an emergency appendectomy. My appendix had been burst for like 2 days. They were surprised I was still walking, but it was close. I was in hospital for 2 weeks after that, and I got down to like 70 pounds. Uh, One of the few times I was really skinny. Has not been that way. In fact, I still to this day have to watch what I eat because I can put on weight very quickly. Um, but but that's kind of what got me there. In school, I was quiet. In fact, everybody who sees me doing this now, my classmates are like, "What happened to you?" I found my voice, but I didn't find my voice before really I got out of high school. I was still kind of the out kid. I was not the in crowd still. I did do some stuff with the music and all that, and I still love music to this day. But I mean, we did shows every year at high school, which I was part of that. Not small parts, but and I was in church choir and all that. But I still was very very quiet. I didn't want to take that chance of somebody. I called it bullying, but it really wasn't. It was never physical. It was always mental if there was any. And looking back to where I'm at now, I think it's more my perspective that kids do that to all the time. That's just the way. And I did not take it well. I did not know how to handle that, so I handled it with being quiet. In fact, I even won an award, I think, close junior senior year, as being the quietest person in the whole school system, which was cool because they were trying to give me an award for something. And although it traumatized me to go up in front of and receive that award. So, but fast forward, graduated in 1981 from Minden High School, Minden, Nebraska. Class of over 100. Actually, my class was pretty good to be with. I mean, I still am friends with a lot of them. And but then went to what was Kearney State College at the time. It's now the University of Nebraska at Kearney, Nebraska, and had basically a full ride. I had all scholarships. I guess there is perks to being a geek on studying and everything. Didn't have to worry about tuition and that thing, and at that time tuition was a lot less than it is now, but it was good. Got business administration degree and geography. I thought maybe I would teach people where things are at in the world, so gotta have it to my kombucha. So it was good, and I was so tired of being quiet that in the first week when I was over there, I went to. Oh, they had kind of a rush for the fraternity sororities, and I joined a fraternity the very first week, Alpha Tau Omega, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made because I'm still in contact with those guys, many of them to this day, and they were awesome to me. They kind of took care of me, and and still kind of do. I even have this one who's in California, and he was doing this stuff, which I didn't realize at the time, to try and get me out of my shell and stuff. And I had gotten out of my shell much more in college than I ever was in high school. But they took care of me. I love those brothers. And, you think fraternity, and yeah, there was what you think, but not to the same extent that, like Animal House. It was never anything like that. And, I'm so blessed that I took that decision and decided to join that fraternity. One of the best decisions I've made in my life. And yeah, they were awesome. Actually went spring break one time to South Padre with a bunch of them in a very small car. It was a lot of togetherness, and but what a cool experience. And this gentleman who told me he was going to take care of me, he really wanted me to go to try and help me get out of my shell. And now he can't really. He's like, "What? You really did?" And it's like, "Yeah, I really have come out of my shell, doing these podcasts, speaking, doing all kinds of stuff. Facebook, I'm really into Facebook. Got about not quite 51,000 followers on there. If you'd ever told me that I was going to have that, but at the time Facebook wasn't even invented yet. But no, college went great. I loved the college experience. Got actually offered three jobs right out of college. One was in Seattle, one was in Dallas, and I think the other one was like in Albuquerque. Took the one that was in Dallas. I mean, the pay was good. Little did I know it was with a chain. It was a restaurant management training position, and got down to Dallas, and that is probably one of the most traumatic days, weeks, months that I ever have had, because that's really when I was on my on my own for the first time ever, and I was 600 some miles away from what I knew, and it was scary. But one thing, they worked me so much I didn't have much time to think about anything else. I mean, there was people that were saying who's gonna get to 100 hours a week first, and it's like, nah, this is not for me. So I didn't do that very often, did very long, I should say, because they well, they moved you around a lot. I worked three different restaurants in the Dallas area, and then St. Louis opened one restaurant there, and then they moved me to Columbia, Missouri. With, let's see, on a Monday they told me, and I had to be there by Thursday. Good thing is the one in Columbia had a really awesome management team. So, but I did decide that was not for me. So came back for a little bit to Nebraska. Then I was searching for employment, and I became a shoe store trainee for management at this large mall in Omaha. And let me tell you, that was even worse because I worked on commission and selling shoes, and had a boss that was not the greatest person. So that didn't last long. And then my dad said, why don't you come back and farm? So came back and farmed a lot of years with him. Fed cattle. We had like a 1,100 head feedlot, very small compared to what today's feedlots are. Did that for a lot of years, and then my parents had kind of a falling out. I think one of the hardest things is working with family, or can be, not necessarily has to be. But they kind of wanted, my mom and dad, since they'd been out in Colorado when I was born, had always wanted to move back to Colorado. So they moved back to Colorado, and I went my way and started a handyman business. I knew there was a demand for that because there's the contractors that do the big jobs, but nobody to do the small jobs. And little did I know, I hit the ground running with that. That was very good. And except for a couple of people, everybody was awesome. And a year or two in, I got this I worked for these people, and they wanted to know if I wanted to be on retainer. So yeah, I was on retainer for 18 years with these people, and I worked every Monday, and they taught me a lot because they were wealthy. Taught me a lot about what I know, how to live as a wealthy person. And it was kind of old money. They kind of had that. And they had the background of this family was epic, but I always promised that I would never really say everything that they were doing behind the scenes to help people. And that is the kind of person that I will be. And I'm already in the process of doing that. But no, they were awesome. And it seemed very weird after 18 years not going to their place on Mondays. Yeah, so cool. But I met so many awesome people. It became like family. In fact, it became where I was like, can you change the light bulb? And then the rest of the time would be me talking, and they would still pay me. And of course, then we'd have something to drink or eat too. So, but it's just like this talking thing is kind of awesome. And, it was just like, okay, maybe there's something here. And then I had a friend who had been, I'd gone in 2018, 2019, become a life coach, and had met a lot of some people there. But, and that kind of catapulted me to the next stage where I met these people. And Katie Lasky, if you had a lot to do with where I'm at today, was there at the one in Life on Fire in San Diego, because she knew this family from California, and I got to help them put on one of their Thrive events in Vegas, and that was life changing too. I mean, it was a lot of hard work, but it was so awesome because of the awesome people, the influential people that I got to meet, and I think I did that 3 times for them, and then the friend Cody Sperber was another one that I helped at the last one in Vegas. So been to Vegas I think 4 times, but that really got me to where I'm at, the mindset I have today. It's really different meeting these people because I just helped whatever they needed. But the last one especially, I got to go back in the green room and meet some of these influential speakers. And don't think that you can't have an influence on people with your voice, because you can. I mean, some of the things that they told me, have to this day make a difference in my life. And then, it just kept on going, and met this, actually, with the Thrive and Clever Summit. I met this Crystal, who she has, and still lives in Fresno, California, has had a podcast for a long time. And she's like, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? And it's like, no, I have never thought about doing a podcast. And so she kind of got me talked into doing it and starting it. And we initially called it Handyman for Your Life, kind of going off with the handyman that I'd done. Didn't keep it very long. And then it was just, my wife has had run-ins with cancer numerous times. And she had one where she had colon cancer and only had 14% chance of living. And she did. She's really tough. She's been way tougher now. But it gave clarity, because cancer or anything like that can give clarity. And it's like, most people don't catch their dreams. Most people, life happens, like cancer, or something expensive comes along. There's so many things that keep people from doing their dreams. And I always say on this podcast that if you were given the dream, you have the wherewithal to do it. And probably most likely won't be easy to catch the dream, because God, the universe, sends trials and tribulations to build you into the person that can keep that dream, live that dream. Because, God wouldn't want to give you this dream and then drop you in, and you'd have no way to know how to keep it and live it. So you go through this period, which Cheryl and I have been going through this period for at least 2.5 years now. Been very, very big trials and tribulations. For somebody who had never really had money problems, it definitely stressed us out there. And I'm not going to go into details on that, but we had a lot of good people behind us, and including my sister and my dad. Helped us out a lot, but it gave us clarity on what is important, what you can do if you have to do it. Because sometimes it's like, what do I do next? And that is also when I surrendered to God, because I had no other options. And that was another one of the, right up there towards the top, decisions that I've ever made. Because you get to the point where I don't have the money, because medical expense bills in this country, specifically the United States, are exorbitant, even if you have insurance. And everybody's like, well, you didn't, all the things. It's like, well, why didn't you have it? And it's like, I have had good insurance, and what the deductible is and what maximum out of pocket expense are totally different things. So, and that's like, recently Cheryl's been having some more problems, thankfully all good, but all those things, we're waiting to see what those are going to be. But they'll be what they'll be. And I know Cheryl has apologized for potentially getting sick, and she wasn't, thankfully. But it's just like, you don't know that stuff until you go through the test. So, but it has taught me, there's a time and place where you just have to surrender and trust it to God. And that's probably where Cheryl and I have been at now. And that's where it's getting us to continuing to do this podcast, helping people go through it, because we know quite a few people that are going through the same thing, money-wise. I think there's a lot of people in the United States that are. And that's another reason why I do this Dreamcatcher, because it's like, people have had it worse than we've had, but you still, you can do it. Like I said, it won't be easy. And people with terminal illness, sometimes they amaze me what they do also do. They don't let illness or trials and tribulations stop them. And that's kind of one of my biggest lessons that I've learned from putting this podcast on and doing other things in life. If you're going to make a difference in your life and your spouse's wife or your spouse's life, and in general around the world, you can't stop. You got to. It's a non-negotiable. And I had some health problems a few years ago, and the doctor was an awesome doctor. And instead of throwing some pills and everything else, he told me to go strengthen my core at a gym. And I joined the YMCA and locally, and I did not have the right idea what a Y is like. Not even close. It's a big family. I love these people. Whether it's the one I go to in Hastings or Kearney or Holdridge, they're all excellent people. And for a while there, I had a coach, Caleb, and Caleb's a very good friend. He's been on this podcast numerous times. But it's interesting what life puts you through to make you stronger. And sometimes it's like, okay, enough of that. But that's what it takes to do your dreams. And that's why I did this podcast, because a person that was so quiet and basically very meek, I didn't. I was like, I mean, very, very quiet. I very rarely spoke in public. And here I am on my, I think this is like the 306th episode of the Dreamcatcher podcast, and you can do it. You just got to see yourself, and you're not going to be perfect by a long ways. In fact, I still learn stuff every time I do this. And but do it, do it afraid, do it, not perfect. And I don't know if there is such thing as perfect, because it's perfect to who you are. And I have found over the years now, the less perfect, the more real it is, the more you like these podcasts. Um, I don't do very little editing. I just do it raw, basically. And everybody thinks they have to have, and it's nice, have these big, nice, speakers and mics and whatever the equipment they think they need. And yeah, those are all nice, but you can have what I started out with, a Samson, which is the cutest little mic, and it actually has excellent quality. And now I'm up to Blue Yeti, but I know there's other ones, from other companies that are nicer. But with today's technology, kind of like what I use for doing these podcasts, Riverside FM, it can make a very mediocre mic sound really good. Yeah, it's amazing what technology can do, and just get your voice out there. Because I always tell people that before I tell them, it's like your audience is out there waiting for you to do your podcast, to do whatever your dream is, because your vibe will attract your tribe. And don't let anything stop you. Money could have stopped us. Could have definitely stopped us. Did not. I kept doing these podcasts all these last 2.5 years when Cheryl and I were having trials and tribulations. We were really struggling. You can ask my dad and my sister. They both helped us financially. Um, but now things are getting better. I learned so much. I look back and it's like I'm not even that same person before that. And now the dream is to do these podcasts in person around the world. And been invited a couple times to Portugal. I do them all over the world. And that's one thing I like about podcasting with this technology, because everything's possible. You can make friends clear across 17 time zones ahead or something. I actually have a friend 17 time zones ahead. And I would have never met him without this technology. And don't let your age say, well, I'm too old to learn that technology. Technology is really relatively easy. And it's not hard. What I'm doing right now, if you got a laptop and you can figure out how to push a button basically and talk, you got it. Yeah, today's technology makes it very easy to do a podcast and then put it up on your YouTube channel that you would set up. I think I just got the local museum going to do that. I pray I have, but just don't let anything stop you from getting your dreams. And mine was a podcast, and at the time I didn't even realize it. I love podcasting now. I would miss it greatly. For one thing, it gets me to talking to people all over. Yesterday, Cheryl and I went on a day trip and met these amazing people that are going to be future guests on the podcast. They own this bakery. It's called the Danish Bakery in Dannebrog, Nebraska. And oh my gosh, they have such good stuff. But their backstory is very cool. And if I hadn't started this podcast, I would have never met them. And you don't know the people you're going to miss if you don't go out and do your dream. Start out. You're going to suck to begin with, because you're not going to know how to do whatever your dream is. But I find the universe, God, puts people, like-minded people together to help you. And that's another thing nice. There's Facebook groups. There's all kinds of groups out there to, help with podcasting, whatever your dream is. But don't stop. Go get that dream. Forget your age. Everybody's like, well, Mark, shouldn't you be getting ready to retire? I will never retire, because I think retiring is from people that have been having jobs that they didn't care for and have been looking night and day to get to retirement. They work for the weekends, they work for vacation. And then when they get there, it's like, okay, I'm 65 or whatever. And saying, what do I do now? Why wouldn't I keep doing this? And the age that they tell us to retire now with all the health stuff, you're not old. It's a mindset thing. It's like people are like, oh, I turned 60, now I'm old. It's like BS on that. Some people are older than that, old before that, and some people are not old at 100. You see these people running marathons at 100. That's the kind of person to be. And yeah, easier said than done sometimes with illness and stuff. But if you're healthy and you're just going to retire, what is it your dream? What are you going to do? Are you going to travel? People are so concerned that they're not going to have enough money for that, so they live small their whole life, and then they get ill. Something happens, and they don't ever get to do it along the way, too, for the younger people out there. Do it along the way. I can't emphasize that enough. Yeah, the money will be there. It will be there. And, if you have an illness that comes along, let's say 45, you have lived some of your dream. You haven't waited until retirement age. And that's so sad, because all the people you'd meet, all the people you would influence, if you haven't done it and you waited and you were a good steward of your money and all this stuff, and it's like what they kind of tell you to do is control. And yeah, you have to take care of your money, but I can tell you, you can do the other things too. I can tell you, Cheryl and I kept doing even trips, smaller trips around the local area. We know Nebraska and Kansas very much. Didn't take much money, but we still did our dreams and discovered amazing things in Kansas and Nebraska. So don't let the excuses keep you from going after your dreams. And I think I've talked about that enough. But no, and that's who I am. Mark Rudd Larsen, 62, South Central Nebraska, very close to Minden, Nebraska. That is on a mission to have people realize their dreams, realize that life is very, very short, and just do it. You need to do it, because before you know it, you will be the age, and it's like, I wish I had. You don't want to have regrets. You don't want to have regrets. And go to the Y. Go to the gym. Work out. The people you'll meet there. And the people are like, well, I'd be apprehensive. And it's like, so is everybody else. Just forget it. Just do your thing, and just do your thing. Learn how to work out. And if you don't know how to work out, these places have people that can teach you. And that's another thing. People are online to teach you podcasting, whatever it is, if you don't know. Or I'm too old to learn that. No, there's so many people coaching out there that you can almost learn everything online now. And I just want everybody to live their dream, because I wanted to make it a better world with these people that are living these, working these many, many jobs, barely getting by. So maybe it's time for a change. I think it is time for a change if that's the way you're living. And you're going to have to work on it probably in your spare time while you're doing the other. But if you don't ever start, you'll never get to where you want. And you will be at the end of your life the same place you were when you started it. And that is a travesty to the world and to yourself, because the world is waiting for you. So on that, I'm going to drink some more kombucha. I think I might go inside. It is definitely a warm day here in Nebraska. But yeah, if you have any other questions about me, just shoot me an email or something like that. Because I'm an open book. All I want to do is help people, and will help people more. I hopefully help people by just talking to them. And use your voice. You can make very much a positive difference with your voice. You can make a very positive difference holding doors open, giving people hugs. You got to watch that, because some people are not receptive to that, but just showing people that you care. And it'll make this world a much better place. And on that, I'm going to let you go. And I'm so glad that I started doing podcasting. And I look forward to the next 4 years, the next who knows how many years I'm going to continue to do this. And if you have any ideas about me doing podcasts a different way, or a topic, or also shoot me a line, and or note, whatever you want to call it. And I'm definitely look forward to those. So on that, before we get more tongue-tied here, I'm going to let you go. Have some gucha. Enjoy this day. So on that, take care, and thanks for watching this episode of the Dream Catcher Podcast. Talk to you soon.